Chapter 11. An Unexpected Pilot. "Hey, you all right?" Micah asks again. He approaches Sophia slowly, like she's some wounded animal he doesn't want to spook. I'm... Sophia stutters. She wants to tell him she is fine, but the lie sticks in her throat. Instead of words, tears of relief come spilling out. Within moments, full sobs break through the floodgates, and she covers her eyes. Her chest hurts so badly, she wonders if the man didn't stab her after all. She senses a presence beside her, a pair of muscled arms pulling her close. However long she cries, she doesn't know. She can't remember the last time she let herself show this kind of vulnerability. It feels like weakness, but it also feels good. Like when she was a little girl, sick with fever, and her mom rocked her and sang to her. Sophia eventually opens her eyes. Kira, stoic Kira, is the one holding her. Gabriel stands between Bixby and Etere, staring at her in shock. Dario, Micah, and Kyla are lined up behind them, gazing at the grisly scene and the dead man at the center of it. Removing a quilt from the sofa, Etere drapes it over the old man's body. When he is satisfied every inch of him is covered, he steps back. Why did you come back?" Sophia asks, her words garbled by emotional sobs. "Someone blew up our train," Kira answers, stroking the nape of her neck. "And they did it with my dynamite," Dario adds with a scowl. He seems more distraught over the loss of his explosives than over Sophia's near miss with death. Shifting his bulky black duffel from one hand to the other, he says, "At least I had the good sense not to keep it all in one place." Kira rolls her eyes at him and returns her attention to Sophia. "We were worried they might have tracked us back to your house. We were right. Got here just in time." "Kira, will you take her upstairs, please?" Etere says. "Gabriel, too. We will remove the body and clean up." Kira leads them to Sophia's bedroom. Bixby follows and jumps onto the bed alongside his mistress. Burying her face in the dog's wiry fur, Sophia sobs until she has emptied herself of every emotion. "I'll go downstairs and make sure they're finished," Kira says. "You'll be okay for a minute?" Sophia nods and snuffles. With the back of her hand, she wipes away the tears. When Kira is gone, Gabriel says in his small, squeaky way, "Thanks for saving me. I thought he was going to kill me." Sophia wraps an arm around his shoulder and hugs him to her side. "I'm glad I got there in time," she replies, leaning her head against his. "Were you scared?" he asks. "So scared," she answers, vaguely amused at his innocent question. "But I was mostly scared he would hurt you and Bixby. I'm glad we're safe now." "Maybe we should have never followed the train," Gabriel casually suggests. "Yeah," Sophia mutters. "Maybe." After this, they sit in silence until Kira returns. "They're finished," she says. "It's safe to come down again." The rest of Etere's gang have made themselves comfortable in the sitting room on the south side of the house. When the children enter with Kira, Etere stands and offers them his own seat. "Are you all right?" he asks. Fatherly concern creases his features. "Yeah," Sophia answers, but she knows she will see the man again in her dreams, probably next to the old woman from Asheville. A nervous tension hangs over the room, as if somebody just died, which is indeed what happened, Sophia remembers. Finally she asks, "Who was that? One of Lin Lai's people?" "Nah," Micah answers, his smile thin-lipped and grim. "Lin's pretty awful, but killing a couple kids in cold blood ain't exactly her style." "That man was an immovable," Etere confidently informs them. "I noticed the letter I tattooed on his wrist. That is one of their marks. He must have tracked us through Las Vegas, then followed us here. It is even possible he was hiding on our own train. But what is an immovable? Sophia asks. She figures if she fills her brain with questions and answers, these will distract her from the trauma of the previous hour. They're a kind of guardian, Kyla explains, fiddling with the end of her long braid. Security guards for the Antikythera device. Ethere's read about them. Yes, but we do not know much, the physicist adds. The immovables are a mystery mostly. They have been around for centuries, maybe longer. They have sworn their lives to protecting the various pieces of the Antikythera device, making sure they are never found and never brought together. And apparently, there was also one keeping watch over the map room. Hardly matters anymore, Dario interjects sourly. By now, Lynn has a significant head start. And it'll take days to prepare another train, so unless one of you knows how to fly an airplane, we'll never be able to catch up. Actually, Sophia slyly retorts, I might be able to help with that. 6 curious heads turn, giving her their full attention. She stands and says, Follow me. Sophia leads them to the basement and turns on the lights. The expansive room is carpeted and fully furnished with sofas, easy chairs, a pool table, a ping-pong table, and another huge television with all sorts of video game hookups. In a plexiglass display case, a pair of ruby slippers sits between a blue sapphire and a trio of gem-studded rings. But it is the white ovoid capsule sitting in the far corner which commands their attention. It appears large enough to fit at least 2 people inside, like an egg laid by some mammoth prehistoric chicken. Sophia opens a narrow door in its side, revealing an interior with 2 chairs, a video screen, and an intricate control panel. Printed in metallic blue letters above the door are the words, Aero 7 Flight Simulator. If you are looking for a pilot, Sophia tells them, you've got one. Micah lets out a whoop of laughter and howls. You're serious, Soph? You can fly? She glares at him. Tartly, she snaps, Yeah, I can. I've spent hundreds of hours in here the last 2 years. Figured someday I might want to fly to Europe or Australia or somewhere else across the ocean. But that's a video game, counters Micah. It can't be the same as flying an actual plane. Real pilots train with it, she informs him. Used to, anyway. Besides, if you want to get ahead of Lin Lai, I'm your best shot. Sophia turns on her heel and fixes her fierce gaze on Etere. I know you didn't want to take me and Gabriel with you, she says, but if you want to fly, you're gonna need me. With 1 part disbelief, 2 parts amusement, Etere stares back at her. He clearly admires her spunk and mettle. Even after coming within a literal inch of death, she is prepared to undergo unknown dangers to help them. With the tone of someone happily conceding defeat, Etere says, I suppose we had better find ourselves a plane. Sophia thinks she might throw up, and it has nothing to do with turbulence. It's the fact that she is operating a 10-passenger jet at 28,000 feet, which has her feeling like she ate month-old tuna from the back of the fridge. Dario, sitting beside her in the cockpit, keeps casting leering glances her way. He's amused at her discomfort, which is made obvious by the sweat on her forehead and her jittery left leg. Silently, Sophia prays the onboard navigation computers are working properly. The network of satellites, known as the Global Positioning System, GPS, is still floating around in space, alive and well and unaffected by humanity's disappearance. Without it, she knows they would have little hope of a successful flight to New York. Navigating roads with an atlas is one thing, but trying to fly a plane from Denver to the Big Apple would be impossible without the help of a working computer system. You were so confident when we were still on the ground, Dario comments. Not so much now that you are in the air. It's my first time. Cut me some slack, Sophia snaps back. She's irritated that Dario wanted to sit in the cockpit and learn how to fly, especially since all he does is criticize her. Dario chuckles with dark amusement and says, "You know, they say taking off and cruising are the easy parts, but landing? That's when most accidents happen." Sophia flashes him a look of pure disgust. "Are you seriously trying to freak me out right now? It sounds like you want me to crash. You're on this plane too, you know." Dario laughs even harder. "Relax, I'm teasing. Of course I don't want that." Sophia rolls her eyes and turns her attention to the various controls and gauges in front of her. "Where did you get the scars?" Dario asks, staring and pointing at Sophia's left wrist. Sophia reflexively tucks her hand beneath her butt to hide her wrist. "Nowhere," she replies. Fortunately, Micah appears in the cockpit to save her from any further interrogation. Poking his head through the door, he says, "Kira made chicken. You want some? Can you eat while you're flying?" Dario stands and says, "I could eat. The girl doesn't need me here anyway, right?" "Right," Sophia replies, ignoring Dario's belittling remark. With one more derisive chuckle, the Spaniard leaves, and Micah slides into the vacant seat. "Sorry about Dario," he says, studying the control panel. Well, who am I kidding? You ain't gonna warm up to him. I've been with him a lot longer than you, and I'm about as warmed up as a popsicle in Antarctica." His comment elicits a belly laugh from Sophia, and she asks, "Why is he even with you? Seems like he'd rather be alone." "From what I heard," Micah explains, "he didn't really want to go with Ettore when they first bumped into each other. Genius that he is, our sly Italian convinced him. Good thing, too. Can't believe I just said that, but Dario's kind of a genius when it comes to machines. Cars, trains, boats, whatever. He can figure out pretty much anything that's got an engine." A short silence follows. Sophia clears her throat and asks, "So you came from South Carolina?" "Mm-hmm. Horse country," Micah answers. "I grew up working in stables for as long as I can remember. It was my dream to own my own horse ranch someday. But life doesn't usually work out the way we plan, I guess." "No," Sophia agrees, chewing the inside of her lip. "I guess not. What was your family like?" "It wasn't," Micah answers with a grim smile. In explanation of his vague answer, he continues, "My mom died of lung cancer when I was too young to remember. She was a pretty heavy smoker, from what I gather. And Dad got himself killed by a beer truck when I was 9. Rode bulls in the show for 30 years, with hardly a scratch to show for it. Forgets to look both ways crossing the street, and he was gone. Just like that." Micah snaps his fingers for emphasis. "I'm so sorry," Sophia whispers. She feels awful for asking about his family. Micah shrugs indifferently. He removes his black felt hat and stares down at it. "Dad bought me this a few months before he died, right after I won my first blue ribbon bull riding. He said it made me look like a real cowboy." "What did you do after they were gone?" Sophia asks, hoping the question will lead to happier days on his timeline. "My dad's brother took me in," says Micah. "Probably would have been better off on my own. He was a mean cuss. I worked my butt off in the stables, then on a pecan farm for a while, and that old thief took at least half of every paycheck for himself. To cover your room and board, he'd say. More like lottery tickets and trips to the liquor store, I'd say." "So why do you want to go back? What is there for you in 1978? A dreamy tenderness fills Micah's golden brown eyes as he says, "This is gonna sound cliche, but there's a girl. Avonlea. I worked with her at the stables. We only knew each other a few months, but we were already planning a future together. We were gonna buy our own ranch, have a nice house, a few kids, and I'd never have to see that rotten uncle of mine again." A flush of jealous warmth rises into Sophia's cheeks, and she realizes then that she might be harboring a tiny crush on Micah. Which is stupid, of course, because he's at least 5 years older than her. Maybe more. "And what about you?" he asks, jolting Sophia from her secret thoughts back to the conversation at hand. What do you mean? Sophia says in response to his unclear question. Well, I know you're from Pennsylvania, and that you've got a dog, Micah clarifies. But what else should I know about Sophia Faraday? I have a mom, dad, 2 brothers, she answers. She stares straight ahead, as if peering into past times. I was playing hide and seek with my younger brother the day I slipped through time. He was counting, and I went and hid in the laundry closet under a pile of clothes. Bixby smelled me and followed me in there and wouldn't leave me alone, so I let him lie next to me. I waited and waited, but Eric, that's my little brother, never came. I eventually gave up and came out of the closet with Bixby, but everything was different. The furniture was moved around, there was dust all over everything, none of the lights would turn on. Then I walked into the dining room and saw the table covered with newspaper clippings, articles about a missing girl named Sophia Faraday. I figured it was some weird prank. I called out for my family, but no one answered. I watched out the front window for almost an hour, but I never saw even a single car drive by the house. I think that's when I knew something horrible happened. When I finally went to my older brother's room, his name's Darius, I looked at his atomic clock, and I saw that it wasn't 2021 anymore. It was 2026, November, more than 5 years after the day I'd been playing hide and seek. And 1 year after the rest of the world disappeared, Micah remarks. Yep, muses Sophia, using her fingernail to rub some dried gunk off of one of the control panel knobs. At least that's what I guessed. All the latest newspapers I found had the same date, December 2nd, 2025. You ever wonder where they are? Where they went? Micah asks. He tips his black hat so that it rests low over his eyes, then folds his hands on his belly. It almost looks like he wants to take a nap. Every day, Sophia answers. From beneath his hat, Micah speaks timidly as he says, You know, Soph, I didn't just come up here to shoot the breeze. I came to apologize. For what? For the way I treated you and Gabe at first. I thought you were with the bad guys. I didn't really trust you till we got to your house, and I could see your story was true with my own eyes. It's okay, Sophia replies. I have trust issues too. That's why Gabe and I didn't come right out and show ourselves to you. That's why we were sneaking around so much. You wanted to see what kind of people we were, Micah says matter-of-factly. I get it. He notices her discomfort and asks, Something happen? That made you so suspicious? Sophia shrugs and says, Yeah, I guess so. You don't have to talk about it if you don't want, Micah tells her, sensing her hesitation. No, it's just, I've never talked about it before now, stammers Sophia. She feels the walls around her heart crumbling, and she continues. It happened 8 months after my time slip. I was taking my first trip away from Pennsylvania. This was before I lived in Denver, and was driving around the Appalachian Mountains. When I was little, my mom and dad took me to the Biltmore, which is this huge mansion thing in Asheville. I've heard of it, Micah informs her. Anyway, she continues, I wanted to go see it again, and I was just getting to Asheville when this old woman jumps out into the road and starts waving her arms. She was the first person I'd seen since playing hide and seek with my brother. I was so excited, didn't really think about how bad people can be, and I let my guard down. Or never really put it up to begin with. I got out to talk to her, and she seemed really nice. Bixby didn't care for her, though. I guess I should have taken that as a warning. But I didn't. She said I was the first person she'd seen in a long time, too, so she invited me to her house for dinner. It was just around the corner. Bixby was going a little nuts when I parked in front of her house, so I left him in the motorhome and went inside. As soon as I did, she changed. Started talking weird about how lonely she'd been, about how in this new world you can't let friends get away from you. But I didn't want to be rude, so I stuck around. Big mistake, I'm guessing, Micah comments. His hat is no longer hiding his eyes. He stares intently at Sophia as her story unfolds. Big mistake, she confirms. While we were eating, she got up to refill my water. Next thing I knew, I was waking up in the basement, tied to a chair, with a mega headache. She must have knocked me out when I wasn't looking. What did she do? Micah asks, afraid to hear the answer. Nothing, really. Over the next couple days, she would come downstairs periodically to talk to me. I guess she really was just lonely. Totally psycho, but lonely. How'd you get away? Sophia says nothing at first. A series of images, each more horrifying than the last, parades up from her memory and in front of her eyes. She blinks them away, wills them to disappear, but they won't leave. They never leave. Finally, she utters 3 quiet words. I killed her.